On this episode of the John 1911 podcast, Chicago goes after Glock, the Clinton airport shooting, Trump can't raise any money, and the crocodile gets his bite. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Danny or Marky, and this is episode 334 of the John 1911 podcast. Today is Friday, March 22nd, 2:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we are still alive. Unfortunately, with the construction and everything that's been going on, we haven't been able to put out a podcast as frequently as I had initially planned. When I say we, I mean me. It's ultimately all my fault. So please send me the Christmas bombs and the hate mails. But Danny was gracious enough to be available this afternoon for like literally 3 minutes notice. We have no outline. We have nothing. This is just another proof of life. And, we just need to get it on. So how you been, stranger?
Uh, well, after I blew the dust off my headset and iPad to get everything ready, I'm surprised that the system let me back in. It probably won't. I'm surprised they didn't want new credentials.
You're like, do I still work here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was ready for a thumbprint logo to come up.
But there's people like that work in Silicon Valley and they come into work and they're like, I can't log in. It's like, dun dun dun. I've got bad news
Yeah,
for
here's
you.
your pink slip.
This is how this is how it works with
Well,
people that don't like to meet face to face.
I know that you've been busier than a running mule doing that barn situation and all that, trying to get it done. And then from the picture you sent me, it's really, really looking quite good. Quite good,
We
I
are
have to
we're
admit.
we are trucking along. So
How's my
the
bridal
bar
suite coming?
well, I ain't your bride, so I don't know. Um So it's the bridal suite. Well, I've got, let's see. So the electrician is still pulling wire. Obviously the barn is up, and all that's in. I'd say about half of the wire is pulled. The most of the lights and they started calling it the garage section. Where the tractor is, like, so,
Right.
because there's a living quarters and there's, or office, and there's garage. So I started calling it the garage. So most of the lights are up in there. There's no power. The cans are in place. Everything is in the ceiling for the living quarters. And the amount I have, so we bought these. I actually had to talk to somebody who is a lighting expert, and we had to explain to them, okay, this barn, the garage area, is 52 feet long by 40 feet wide. It's got 12-foot ceilings, and it has the potential to have, like, tall tractors in it and tall equipment, so it'll throw shadows. And like, we need to be able to see in there 24 hours a day, day and night. So, we were looking at I was looking at some, what I thought were the correct light things. And the guy's like, he's like, follow me. And he takes me and he shows me there are these things that are they sell them on television. It's like as seen on TV. It's like this 4-panel thing that you can unscrew a light bulb out of one of those simple fixtures, that they've had for 100 years. And you screw this 4-panel LED light thing in that puts out 8,000 lumens. You'll see them. You'll see them like for garage, like on TV. They'll put them for garages. Like somebody will say, "Oh, I took the
Right.
light bulb out," and so we have one of those that actually is a 4-panel. We've identified that, and each one of those puts out 8,000 lumens. And in the garage area, we have 12 of those things.
What are you going to do? Replacement hip surgery under those lights or what?
Well, the electrician was laughing. He's like, "You could take your shirt off in here, tan, if you wanted to," but we need, you know, and so they had to space them out. Like, there's this rule of, I don't remember. I was like, so many feet from the wall, then half the distance of that for the next row. So there's those lights, but I thought that was interesting, and those didn't turn out to be that expensive. And then we are going to have some dedicated hanging lights on a chain over a workstation to, admin guns. There'll be the sonic tank and a double wash basin, and then there'll be multiple benches set up so we can work on multiple guns at all times, and we can even have direct light right overhead each bench, that we
Nice.
can, so that's all in. We ended up putting in a water heater, um,
Well,
as
yeah,
opposed to
you got to have that.
yeah. But I was going to use one of those tankless things, but they all talked
No,
me out of it. They're like, that
no.
shit doesn't last.
Those,
It
those
says
are
it's
the
just.
worst things ever.
It says they say they break. We had to put in a filter system for the building just because you kind of want to do that, and the only one I could find, I don't think it's going to work. And the reason why we put it in is they're worried about hard water, and so we haven't spec'd in a water softening system. We put in this giant tank they're rating it for 5 years or 600,000 gallons of water, and someone is claiming that this will keep the calcium buildup from destroying everything in the building. I will have to monitor that and see if that's true. I would not be surprised if I have to circle back and end up putting some kind of salt system in.
Is it? Well,
Um,
you're on a well system, correct?
no, we're on county water.
Oh, I thought you dug your own well because there's other avenues you could have went.
No, 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 no. We have there's a aquifer, and the county they put in they trenched the water line. The water is to the barn and it's powered. It's all been pressure tested and it's off. That's been dug and laid and covered. Um, I expect that they're going to trench in the power, 200 amps of power, which is basic house service. Um, Either today or Monday. So I've had a
Nice.
lot of activity. I guess I've gone through build processes, but I've never been the dude that's responsible for every little thing. So, the amount of people that come out and check, especially for the water and the power, it's kind of reassuring to know that they're real serious about not having any mistakes, or, cutting stuff, or crossing things or doing things, and multiple people have to do it. And the last person showed up yesterday, and he quote released the job
Nice.
to their contractor to do that. Well, that's costing me 11 grand just to run
Oh,
that power,
easily.
because they got to put a pole, and I don't want them running a wire in the air over my field. I don't want a pole in the middle of my field, and I don't want a wire across that field,
Right.
because that field initially, well, one, I want to leave it open because it's a field. We may want to put other buildings there or whatever. But two, that field functions as our casualty evacuation point. If somebody gets shot out there, that field is on record that we could land a life flight chopper there. We have a
Uh,
backup location down the road, but I don't want to deliberately be throwing wires up. So it's like
right.
everything's got to be under. So yeah, it's
What?
11 grand for
Well,
fucking
that's
power.
easily because remember the old rule of thumb is underground running a wire versus overhead is usually 2 to 2.5 times what it would be overhead. The cost.
Oh, is it? I mean, yeah, yeah. So, I
Well,
mean,
yeah, string a wire from post to building versus going trenching and everything. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it adds up, doesn't it? Now, what are you
it's
doing for
been
sewage? Are you city sewer? Are you running a
no.
septic?
There's a septic. The septic's already installed. The leach lines have to be put in. It's been a little wet for the leach lines, but the tanks and all that for the septic are in. And we had to have, again, because we're John 1911, and we just can't do shit normal. Um,
Oh no,
this is not a house. This is not residential property. This is commercial. And like I've had to tell people, they're like, ah, just cut the grass or do this and do that. And it's like, understand something. We cut the grass with what I thought was an 11,000 pound tractor. I've been informed it's probably 12,000. But here to there, it's like we're cutting the grass with this giant ass tractor. It's like that's how we manage this property, the whole thing. It's like I'm not buying some little, finish mower for this kind of shit. And so
right?
what they had to do was that my dirt work guy had to take over from our septic contractor, because basically the dirt work guy who runs heavy equipment, he had to make changes to the septic system, and he got a special variance from the county. So you can basically run, you have to kind of hit it at an angle, at particular angles, but basically you can run heavy equipment over him.
Right.
And since he's very familiar with these because he's had to deal with them and he's broken them, he took over he took over the septic system, and so he's putting that in. So we have this we have this these septic system with these cement things, and so we can run equipment over it
Right.
because reasons. What
Yeah,
else is going
PVC
on?
won't hold up.
Yeah, we had I had technically, yeah, kind of. I had technically my first trespasser yesterday. So I'm over there, and the thing is, people come by. Like there's
Oh
just so
yeah.
many just contract people just show up, and so there's always kind of got to be somebody there, and that generally is me. So I'm sitting there and I'm doing whatever, and I hear a vehicle turn down, which is now this giant ass gravel road, and I can hear it, and I'm like, huh, someone's coming. And I look out, and this little utility SUV thing, like this, like it's like not a maybe it's not a
Like
Kubota, it might have been a mule, it could have
like
been
a gator
Kawasaki
or
mule.
something.
Yeah, yeah, like a diesel, not a sport thing like our General. And it's
Right.
coming down the road, and I literally am like, again, I'm kind of a little inside baseball here. I'm like, oh no, it's the woman from the next farm over that has a big crush on me, and now she's coming over here to talk, and I'm like, fuck, because she has a machine that looks like that, and now she can come onto the property. This is a whole separate issue that I'm trying to try to keep this woman away. So anyway, she's not
Uh,
unattractive, but still, it's on principle. It's like, no,
the bridal
this
suite's looking good.
this shit ain't happening. So um,
Are you gonna have a
th-
mirrored ceiling?
I've literally stop it. So hey, this is not the shot show in Vegas, all right? So
If could you see me telling Mrs. Danny that hey, there's a mirrored ceiling, the look on her face that you
oh
you and I
god.
both would get
Oh yeah, I don't know
priceless.
how that would. If I ask the Amish because they have to finish out the living quarters. Yeah, can you put a mirror up on that ceiling for me? That's gonna go over. I don't know. I don't know what kind of derogatory dirtbag thing they're gonna say
Yeah.
about me because I don't speak Dutch. But when they
Yeah.
don't want me to know what they're saying, they all start speaking Dutch. So
Yeah, but it would be bad if one of the Amish asked you, "What are these 8 millimeter cameras for?"
well, okay. So let me tell you about the trespasser, and that actually will get me into the
Yeah,
cameras.
okay, trespasser. You guys have a common interest.
Yeah, so trespasser turns out and it gets closer and I'm like, "Oh, it's not that woman, it's some guy and he's got two dogs in his thing and it's cold. He's kind of bundled up and I'm like, he's coming to the bar." And all of a sudden he just goes
Yeah.
zooming
Okay.
by and he's heading to the range. And I was like, I'm
Oh
like,
my
"Oh hell.
God.
Oh, I'm like, oh hell the fuck no." So, needless to say, he didn't make it to the range, and it anyway turned out it was one of the neighbors behind us. But behind us isn't like again because this isn't a house. It's not like, oh yeah, the guy behind you. Like this guy is. I mean, for him to leave his property and drive and come up a road and drive, he drove half a mile
He was
on
being
that little
nosy.
gator thing. Yeah, he's being nosy. So anyway, so we get he's like, hey, and I'm talking to him, and I hadn't seen him actually physically seen him in a couple years, and we just kind of caught up. He's and he goes, "You moving in?" I'm like, "No, this is just a barn for stuff that because I mean, it's a house. I mean, it's okay. Like as an example, the price of this barn alone. Remember, there was a small farm next door that I could have bought, like 25
Right.
acres, that had
Right.
like a couple barns on it and a house that was a pole barn that had been turned into a house, all this. I could have bought that they offered it to me. I didn't want the buildings. I liked the big giant old barn from the 20s, but I didn't want the rest of it. And I didn't want to pay for it. The value. I would have bought it if it was just land. I mean, they offered that to me for that whole piece of property for $135,000. I've got a $200,000 freaking metal building on top, right up, and it's just like, I mean, it's kind of crazy. So So anyway, so we're talking and I'm explaining stuff to this guy and I'm like, what do you like what's going on? And he's like, I just wanted to he goes, because he doesn't really understand, like he knows we have a gun range and he knows that there's cops there, but he doesn't know about John 1911. He doesn't know about the website, he doesn't know about the videos, he doesn't know any of that. He just knows gun range and cops. Because he came over one time when he heard gunfire that he didn't recognize, and he came around, he ran into one of the SWAT teams. So he goes, well, I was wondering, like, maybe the next time, you guys are shooting and you got your spotting scopes and everything, if I could come over and maybe shoot my rifle and zero it a little bit. I'm like, well, I'm like, yeah, you can come over here. I mean, dude, you can call me anytime you want. I'm here all the time, especially with the building. We're going to be here constantly. I mean, I go, I got spotting scopes in that truck. I'm like, I've always got the equipment. Because he was like, you have, like, all these people have to show up and set up all this equipment. I go, well, what kind of gun are you looking to shoot? What are you trying to do? Like, I'm thinking it's going to be some kind of deer rifle or something. And he goes, well, he's like, I got this 50 and I don't have enough room to shoot it. I'm like, 50 BMG at that point. And I'm like, so what kind of 50 is it? I mean, I'm totally caught off guard here. And he goes, it's a Barrett. I'm like, the M82 semi,
Okay.
and I go, and at this point, like, I'm like, I know exactly. It's like, it's either, is this the M82 semi-automatic or is this the single shot bolt gun? He goes, it's the single shot. I'm like, okay, yeah. I said, and I told him the whole story, how we have one of the SWAT teams. They shoot their quals here with their 50. Well, there, I'm not here. At the range with the 50, and kind of explained what it is, and I said, yeah, we can do that. And I said, what kind of ammo do you have for it? He's like, well, he says, I reload for it and I've got lead stuff. I've got incendiary and armor piercing. And I go, well, I said, here's what we can do. I said, we can get you on paper. We can start you at 100 and maybe we'll take you out to 200 or 300. I'm not going to let him shoot at 600 or 700 because if I don't know how well he can shoot, and if he sends a round off property, guess where it's going to land? On his property. He's the
Yeah, it
one
is.
guy that would. He's literally the guy who's the bullet would possibly hit. He doesn't quite understand that. But I'm like, yeah, we could get you on paper. I said, but I got news for you. Like, I'm not going to be letting you shoot my steel with with your 50 because I don't even know, like, his hand loaded ammo and all this shit. And I was just shocked that this he's behind us all these years and he's got a Barrett 50 and we have no idea.
Well, it's keeping up
And
with the Joneses.
maybe so, but he's reloading for it and he's only got like he's like this. He's a really nice guy, but he's kind of eccentric. He his little UTV that he drives around in is open air. He keeps his dogs in it. It's not enclosed, and he has to drive. He literally has guns mounted in this UTV all the time, and they're rusty from being in this. They're you have a truck gun. He's got a UTV. He's got UTV guns.
Wow.
He's an interesting guy, and he's like this kind of primitive, I would say primitive kind of person. Like he has a log cabin, and he built it. Like he pretty self-sufficient guy. So I'm not surprised to hear, like, I think he's literally, if I understood, he might even be trying to cast
Hmm.
50 caliber bullets with like a gas check or some shit. Like, I don't know what he's doing, but it's like, okay, that was interesting. But it's like, has he been coming through here before? And what it is that driveway. I knew as soon as I put that driveway in up front, because you can run tractor trailers on it, that it was going to start, causing issues. So this happened yesterday.
Uh-oh.
I
You
told
might
you
be you
that's
might be looking at a gate.
well. So I had a few hours later, the contractors came out. My dirt work contractors had come out to do some stuff, and I'm like, let's talk about that gate. So I need
I, I read your
I
mind.
Yeah, well, I need not only do I need a gate, and this was always coming, I there's a gate, but I need electric power out there to potentially power the gate if I want it to open or close automatically. Also, so we have to trench power in a conduit, and we have to trench. I got to run a Cat 6 cable to run a camera out there because I physically want a camera that if I gate this, I can put a camera right there and it can record plates or people can
Right.
talk into it to come onto the property and I can even open it remotely or just it's more secure. So, but here's the other. So let me tell you, this was so, it's like, so anyway, I wrote the check today. The contractors, they kind of figured out all the gate stuff and the trenching and the cable, and that's $2,500. The electrician, so we have an issue to run Ethernet port, Ethernet cables that people Cat 5, Cat 6 that people run in their house. They there's only so far you can run that before you have to put some kind of repeater on it. And I think it's over 300 feet. Well, this is well beyond 300 feet. And so we'd have to buy this cable, buy this repeater, bury all this shit.
Right.
So the electrician, he calls, he calls, he calls I guess the IT guy who runs the IT departments for the schools in the next county behind, like the back of the property is in a different county. And so they're talking, and he's like, "Yeah, these guys up here, they're looking to run this." And I'm wondering if you're familiar with this repeater issue. And so what I was told, I don't, as a favor, is the IT guy from the school system is going to come out and they're going to run. They're going to take this one Ethernet cable to run it to the barn so we can have cameras. They're going to run it as Cat 6. They're going to convert it to fiber, and then right at the very end, they're going to convert it back to Cat 6 to plug it into the power of the power of these cameras. And
Oh,
I'm like, I never heard of that, and I'm
well,
like, are you? Go
I know
ahead.
exactly what they're doing. Make sure you ask him. You might want to write this down or re-listen to it. If anything is going through a SCADA, SCADA system, ask him that. It's very important. Trust me.
What?
He'll know
Tell
exactly
me.
what it. Okay, when you run an
Just
Ethernet,
give me the short version.
the short version of, remember, when it goes into Ethernet, that transfers into low voltage. All right,
Hmm.
low voltage many times has it's well. Let me try to explain the business. Let's just say it would be a server from the main voltage coming in, transferring through the server, and then going out. Ethernet is pretty involved. Just it's hard to explain. Just ask him, is anything SCADA? He'll know exactly what you're saying.
Okay. Well,
Just
um,
I mean, it's just something that you want to ask him.
I told him, I told the electrician because I haven't met this random IT person. I'm like, he understand this is for a PoE camera, power Ethernet camera. And he's
Correct.
like, yeah. And I'm like, well, the cameras are here, so when they come over, you make sure he opens up that box, and whenever they're doing that, this shit's going to work on this.
Yeah,
So
a lot of low voltage stuff, off of Ethernet also transfers through SCADA system. I mean, it's nothing big, but it's just something you want to be aware of.
yeah, is the SCADA system kick in when you go beyond 300 feet? Is that what that is?
This we use a SCADA system for what I do, and we use it up to 3 miles.
Yeah, so that's how you're doing it
Right.
because yeah, because I think that the SCADA system is it gives you the distance.
You know,
Um,
but
yeah,
that it's nothing big. It's pretty well integrated with your low voltage, but it's just something you might want to ask them. It doesn't
yeah.
hurt.
So I will. Oh yeah, well I appreciate you
That
bringing
well,
it up.
see,
So
and the SCADA system for you makes it 1,000 times more programmable.
huh? Okay. Well, I mean, every day is something. So it's like, I guess today that's it. So, so,
Well,
so.
we haven't talked in what, 2 years now.
Oh, stop! You sound like a jealous woman. Um,
Well,
you know,
I want to make sure my bridal suite looks good.
with the mirror, right? Yeah. Some tells me you ain't no virgin. I'm just saying.
Hey, did you
So,
get that? Did you get that story I sent you about Chicago with Suey Glock?
you know what? I did. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I mean to read the complaint. but I know what it's going to be about. It's those switches
It's
that are
exactly what
coming
it
in.
is.
Yeah, it's coming in for those switches that are coming from California, and it's not or because from China. Might as well be fucking China, California. But the back plate on the Glock gives you direct access to the striker, and the striker is what fires the gun. And so these switches that they can put on these things, they're importing them from China as airsoft components, and these gangbangers are putting them on any Glock they can find, and it turns the Glock into full auto. I guess the argument that Chicago is making is, and again, I haven't read it, so you tell me, is the either the design of the Glock is, I don't know, like makes it some
What
kind of like it's a
here's the real
oops.
bottom line. It's more of a Democrat gun grab because you just touched on it. The design of the Glock makes it easier, for of these switches to work. And they're going to attribute crime, shootings, this or that. So this is just a first step of Chicago banning sales of Glocks because of and they'll say it's a switch issue, but Chicago mirrors the state of Illinois, and Illinois mirrors what happens in Chicago. I think it's just the first hurdle.
Yeah, so well here's the thing. So there is a precedent for the government, the ATF in particular, to basically say even though X design, whatever it would be, functions as a semi-automatic, it is too readily convertible to full automatic. So we're not going to allow it because we're going to classify it as a machine gun. Like, for example, it's very rare in the United States. There's some exceptions and grandfather guns in for like for a semi-automatic firearm in civilian hands to function with an open bolt. So every time you pull the trigger, the bolt drops and the gun fires because all you have to do, in essence, to turn that into a machine gun is to just whatever's holding the bolt back, or whatever's holding the bolt back. As long as you leave the disconnector working, the bolt will just keep dropping and firing until you release the trigger and the disconnect stops it. And the
Right.
ATF is like, that is too readily convertible into a machine gun. Glock's issue is, and their defense is, this is a striker fired gun. This is the way these are made. It's not our fault that some assholes in China have come up with a way to convert these into fully automatic because they're not readily convertible. It's somebody's come up with a way. Someone could have done it with another gun, but because there's so many Glocks, someone came up with some part that'll bolt onto the back of a gun. Someone could have easily come up with another device to make a different gun, go full automatic. And so, this is not a machine gun. This is not our fault. This sounds like this is an import export problem with the federal government. Y'all can suck my dick. I mean, that wouldn't be the way they wrote it, and that's why I never passed the bar. So,
Right.
but yeah, and so it ultimately, you're right. It's bullshit. It's just, I mean, but I gotta admit, like, it's surprising at the amount of quote switches that are running around in this country. I mean, like all of us, I can't. I mean, think about how many gun guys are like, oh man, like, ugh, like, oh, my gun ran away. And it's like, ooh, that's technically a machine gun now because it's broken and we got to get it fixed. Like, gun people are so conditioned about the NFA to be cool about it, to like, just like, yo, like, don't even get near something being a machine gun. Whereas all these gangbangers and dopers and gangsters and professional criminals are just, they're bringing in thousands of these little parts that they can put on the back of any Glock, and there's all these there's more machine guns running around today in criminals' hands than probably in the 1920s,
Probably.
and nobody's talking about it.
Here's my question, which I don't understand. You would know, I'm really not the gun guy. But if you had one of those switches and you run several rounds through that, what will that do to the slide? Will that wear the shit out of it out or what?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there is a there's a cost benefit analysis of stuff, the more you shoot a gun, the more stress you put on it, the faster you shoot it, the more frequent. Like if you shoot a one round a second, boom, boom, and you do a million rounds, that gun could last for a very long time. If you try to do a million rounds in about, I don't know, in a day, that gun's going to fall apart. So, it's just, but uh, these Glocks, they're really only shooting most at any one time about 33 rounds before they're out of ammo. If you get an extended magazine, 33 round Glock
Right.
magazines, and
Right.
so yeah, and they can handle it from what they're shooting it, and but these handguns, they run so fast, full they're probably uncontrollable. I've actually never fired a switched Glock,
No,
you know.
that's how I was gonna. That was my next question. How can you possibly, with the gunfire that fast and the slide moving that fast, remain on target?
They
Yeah.
don't. And see, and this is counterintuitive to a lot of people that don't understand guns. But there's a parallel. There was an incident where a guy was killed in Texas. There was a gun. It was like a public machine gun shoot, and for some reason, the parents or whatever, they're like, yeah, little Sally, like this girl was like 9, maybe. You can see, you saw it on video. Then the video cut away, and she's a little girl, and they're like, yeah, we want her to shoot a machine gun. And so they're like, give her the little itty bitty Uzi. And so they gave her this little small Uzi because she's a small girl. Well, it's counterintuitive. You would have been much safer to give her a full size 20-inch barreled, fully automatic M16, because the gun isn't going to move around. It's going to be easier to control. You're not, if you
Recoil, every
drop it,
other thing. Right.
well, but if you drop it, it's still, the barrel's probably going to go downrange, and be pointed downrange. It's not going to turn around on you. It's going to be much easier to control it. If it's the recoil impulse and the recoil generated from whatever the caliber and the powder, that's the same. The device that's containing it is what changes. How heavy that is and the action
Right.
and all that. So basically, they gave this little girl who has no hand strength and no skill, next to a range officer, this little mini Uzi, and she literally goes to fire immediately because she's right-handed. It goes, or maybe, yeah, well, it went the wrong, but anyway, it went up and to the right, and it recoiled up and across, and basically it went right across the range safety officer and killed him instantly.
Really.
Yeah, because they're just, the smaller the machine gun, the harder it is to control it. And that was just one of those it's one of those things that's common sense, but unless you actually have a lot of experience with machine guns or really understand firearms technology or the realities of it, it would be a mistake most people would make. And
Right.
I would much rather have, on balance, some doper shooting at me with a switch on a Glock than, a semi-automatic taking aim shots at me,
Wow.
because most of those bullets are going to miss.
Yeah, they are.
We had a shooting here. It was over the winter, and it was in the city. Surprise! And it was at a park where all these little kids are at, and they still haven't caught the perpetrators, but they think it's minors. And one of the security cameras or something recorded the sound of the gun. And they're not releasing all the information, but they can't find it. And I'm listening. So they released the audio, and there was a child that was killed. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, that's a switch. That gun was running so fast. I'm like, that is not somebody pulling a trigger. That is a switch. And so chances are we're looking for a Glock. So just by the audio and being a gun guy, I can tell, number one, it's a machine gun, and since everyone's converting switches, we're looking for whoever the shooter is. He or she has a Glock. I don't have to
Right.
look at I don't have to look at the ballistics. I don't have to look at the marking of the firing pin, how the Glock leaves a square mark compared to whatever. I can literally, just from the audio I heard on television, it's a Glock. Chances are 99%. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's kind of, we'll have to see how that goes. Speaking of which, did you hear? your favorite thing, Mr. Politico, our chief political correspondent. So Hillary Clinton has another death that she can hang. The Clintons have another death that they can hang on their resume. Have
What?
you heard about the latest?
No,
The
no.
boss of the Little Rock airport was raided over illegal
Oh,
gun
that's right.
sales.
I did see that for gun trafficking, and he was killed in a shootout.
So, Arkansas airport boss who was shot in the head during a shootout with feds as they served a search warrant. I'm looking at the house. This is a nice house. I don't know what it would. I don't know what housing costs are. In in Arkansas. But the picture of the house that I'm looking at, if this house was in Washington D.C., this would be probably this could be $2 million in Washington D.C. It's
Wow.
over $1 million. I mean, like in Arkansas, I mean it could be $400,000 house, but it's not a cheap little house. Um, Feds served a search warrant was already under investigation after purchasing more than 150 firearms, and it's like okay, it's like, well, okay, like I purchased 150 firearms. What does that mean? So the director of the Bill and Hillary Clinton Airport in Arkansas was being investigated for illegal guns dealings when he was fatally injured in a shootout after serving a search warrant. He was 53 years old. Brian Ma- Malwinski, Malwansky,
Right, I
um,
seen that.
Manowski, yeah, Malinowski, yeah, Malinowski, I think is what his name is. He he apparently was. Let's see here. The search warrant revealed that he was suspected of trading more than 150 firearms between May 2021 and February this year. He was probably six of which were later used in crimes, and one of which ended up with a 15-year-old gang member in California. Even if the allegations in the affidavit are true, they don't begin to justify what happened. His family said in a statement this evening. At worst, Brian, whatever, a gun owner, a gun enthusiast, stood accused of making private firearm sales to a person who may not have been legally entitled to purchase firearms. I saw some further reporting that said he was apparently selling guns at gun shows without an FFL, which isn't, a thing, but apparently he wasn't even asking for ID. I'm not getting on either side of this. Like somebody's going to listen to this and be like, think I'm being, I'm a bootlicker, and someone's going to get on the other side of this and say that I'm, that this guy was dirty. I don't know what I'm looking at here, but you know,
Yeah, but
like
for it to end up in a shootout though, that is like holy shit,
yeah, if you
you
look at
know?
this guy, you're like, this is not the kind of guy that is just like gonna, you would think would be, someone kicks in his door. Like I don't know what time they did all this, but it's like what I'm fairly certain of. Because again, someone's listening to like 150 guns. Like, dude, we run an armory here. Like we have had to fill we FFLs have had to fill out those forms. Where you have to purchase, where you're buying more and more guns within certain date. Most people don't realize this is this. Like, if you buy two or more firearms, or two or more handguns for sure. I think within a 5 day period, your ATF or your FFL has to fill out a special form and send it to the ATF. Just like if you withdraw or move X amount of money at the bank, they fill out a form to the IRS. I don't know what that noise is. Can you mute that? Um,
I don't have
um,
anything going.
you don't hear something chiming? Okay.
Well, you hear something chiming?
It's on. Okay, yeah, it's coming from your
Oh, it
end, but
was a
it's
text. It was I'm sorry, I
yeah.
had the
The,
sorry,
the
I got a
whole
text.
the
You know,
whole world can
some
hear
of
it.
us are important, and we don't mute all our texts and never call back. I won't name any names, but that's okay.
I have to. I have to manage my bitches. I just yeah. So
Well, aren't you special?
yeah. So, but I'm gonna say this one thing about this Malinowski guy that we're gonna go ahead and get off of it. I don't know enough to have an opinion as to what was going on here. If he was, falsely accused, or, maybe he just has too many guns. I'm willing to bet he probably does not have a CNR license and is buying lots to trade and to improve a collection. I'm gonna throw that out there. I don't think he's a CNR holder who's buying and selling for a collection. So, but I don't know. But it's kind of a weird story. So,
Yeah,
um,
that's crazy. I mean, we time does not allow us to get even started on all of the different hearings going on and Trump court dates and this and that. I mean, we need a show dedicated just to that. It's
Yeah,
the what
we
I have
we've
saved up is, we just need to do a pod to blow the dust off, and I
yeah, we
fully
do.
agree with
We
that.
have been dropping the ball on the politics.
Not don't
But
let's not get the wee shit.
I have been dropping the ball on the politics.
There we go,
Yeah,
Mister
this
Mirrored
is
Ceiling.
this is literally Mr. Mirrored Ceiling. This is literally how I have to settle every argument with contractors. I've had to do this multiple times. I'm like, I mean, I don't quite say it like this, but it's like, y'all need to shut the fuck up. It's everything's my fault. Everything's my problem. Just fix it. You fix it. I'll pay for it. You fix it. I'll pay for it. We're just let's go.
Well,
So I've had to have,
after
yeah.
being the general on this, calling all the shots, isn't it a pain in the ass?
Yeah, this is yeah. I mean, I wish I had a general contractor. Um,
Now you know
you
why they
know,
exist.
yeah, oh yeah, I'm really appreciative of it, but like, there's just no way. Even if I were to hire a general contractor, this solution, because we have construction at multiple locations, this solution is so specialized. This general contractor would be constantly. I would have to, how are we doing this and why are we doing that, and what about vaults and what
Well,
about
and
this and
would you say during this entire build, with everything involved, from the street to the mirrors on the ceiling, would you say that every decision you've made has been more um, proactive or reactive?
I don't know if that question. Um,
Well,
I
because
don't know if that.
it seems every time something comes up, you have to address it. So that's reactive. How much of
Well,
your original plan has been proactive that you've been able to follow?
what I have, the best way I can answer that question is, and it's really become apparent this year, is people question me on decisions that I make. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are you putting this in? Why are you putting that in? You don't need this now. You don't need that now. And what's happening I've been aggressively, basically starting to really, run the table on some of this stuff. And
Right,
what's, basically saying, do it my way. I'm not this this is not a debate anymore about some of this stuff. And what's been continually been happening is as the job progresses and things, like, oh, guess what? Glad we did that, right? Glad we put those drains in over there, right? Yep, that's why we have the insulation here. That's why we're running. That's why we're doing all the security over here. That's why we're doing that. That's for this because I I've kind of in this mode, and I can't go through life like this because I would be insane. But basically, I'm always right.
try working for
And
the government for 32 years.
yeah, yeah. But it's like, I have complete faith in the decisions I make. I know nothing, but I'm responsible for everything. So, I don't let, if things get hard, I don't let people pull the stuff down, the goals. It's like, no, no,
Right,
no, we still have to hit the top of that hill because the other stuff we need it for the other hill. So that's
right.
kind of been, so I would say it's proactive, but a lot of times I've been kind of cracking the whip and moving things in certain directions. And there have been a fair number of people that have not initially appreciated why I'm doing what I'm doing. And people are like, Marky's hard. Marky's making stuff hard. And what's been happening now the past couple weeks is it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I may not know how to do certain things, but I know what has to be here.
Right.
And so there's been, I'd say about the past 3 or 4 days, there's been a real eye opening on some stuff, among staff and things with some of
Right.
this. So that's my thing. But I want to mention this to you before we get, because it's kind of politics, but we've kind of the political system has moved on. But I want to ask you about this.
Go ahead.
So Mitch McConnell, right? He's leaving the Senate. He's having issues. He's a gentleman of a certain
Oh,
age.
he's
I
not leaving
don't.
the Senate. He's leaving the Senate minority or majority leadership. He's still going to
No,
remain a senator.
no. He's not running for reelection.
Well,
He's
I
going to
thought he
try to finish.
was.
He's going to finish out his term, but I don't think he's going to stay. I don't think he's going to stay in office. I think he's on his way out. And and I don't dislike Mitch McConnell. I really don't. I think we have a lot to give Mitch McConnell credit for in the long term. That a lot. I think a
Mitch
lot of
McConnell gives
Republicans.
credit to Mitch McConnell.
I think a lot of the MAGA media gives Mitch McConnell a hard time. But if it wasn't for Mitch McConnell, we wouldn't. Trump wouldn't be sitting as pretty as he is. Trump
Oh,
wouldn't have gotten his justices. Trump,
because of the
Mitch
nuclear
McConnell.
option, right?
But Mitch McConnell. No, I think history is going to judge Mitch McConnell very, very well, and I'm willing to go to bat for Mitch McConnell, even among my peers, because I have more of a long view about how stuff's supposed to work. But with that said, I don't care about that. His sister-in-law, Mitch McConnell's wife, is wealthy. Her family owns this big import-export company out of China. Mitch McConnell's wife is Chinese, and she may be
Right,
American, but she's
right.
ethnically Chinese and from China or whatever. So, and her sister um, has this business is involved in it. Her sister died. Remember, her sister was found dead in a pond down there in Texas just a few weeks
Well,
ago. This was a big story.
I don't think I heard that.
You really? So, and she's like a billionaire. Like, what was it? So she's a billionaire, and then she had married another who I think a guy died or maybe divorced, and she married another billionaire. It's like, good Lord. I don't know what this woman to do, but she can pull two billionaires. But anyway, so it's like this conspiracy, like was she murdered? And this is like, what's going on? Mitch McConnell, has he been compromised? Well, it turns out they said that, and aerial shots. She has a 900-acre ranch in Texas outside of Johnson City, and she was found in a car drowned on her property. Turns out, it turns out that was having a party on her property with friends, and they were staying in like one of her guest houses. Then she left the guest house, and she was so drunk they can even see her on the camera. Let's see here. Police said security footage outside the lodge recorded her 11:37 p.m. wrapped in a blanket and a phone in her right hand, walking unsteadily to her vehicle. So what she did, she was completely shit faced, and she got into this. I think it was a Tesla, and put it in the wrong direction, and then went into a pond because she was shit faced.
Oh, I did see
And
part of that now that you said the pond
Well,
thing.
because like was she killed? How people don't drive in their own pond. Well, they did her blood. They blood alcohol, and it was like three times the legal limit. Let me see here. She reversed. What was it? So here we go. Yeah. Um, dies. She's trapped in her car after reversing into a pond while three times over the limit. And it's just like, yeah, like I hate to say this. I mean, okay, maybe the Chinese sent some agents in and they got her drunk and they murdered her. I mean, okay, sure. If that's what you think, I'm not saying it's a 0% chance that happened. Nothing's ever zero.
Little Kim's
But
brother.
like, I mean, like the world could be flat. I've never actually been in space to see the world around. So, like
Right.
mathematically, but it's like, yeah, this ain't, like a lot of times there's a lot of conspiracy theories about things. And I just thought that was worth mentioning because it
Well,
turned out like, yeah.
maybe she promised Trump his bond money.
Um, okay.
There, if you want
Okay.
conspiracy theories,
Okay.
any
Well, so you know what? Well, okay. I'm glad. So we're going to rear down. Welcome to the politics side of the podcast. I feel like I got to say this. I feel like I have this. I'm a Trump supporter. I give Donald Trump money. Most people that vote for Donald Trump and say they support Donald Trump don't support Donald Trump as much as I do because I give Donald Trump money and y'all motherfuckers never gave him shit. Maybe you bought a hat. So don't come at me when I start saying things about Donald Trump that are true that you don't like because you have to tell the truth. There's a lot about
well,
Donald
no,
Trump
yeah,
ain't Jesus. Now let me just make this point.
go ahead.
Why can't Donald Trump why can't Donald Trump secure a bond from a company? Basically, Donald Trump wants to take out a loan to 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 pay off this
Judgment.
this judgment.
Right.
Why can't Donald Trump secure a loan to pay off this judgment? What do you think? Just a basic question. Why do
Why
you
do I
think that
think?
is? Yeah, he's gone to
Because
about 30 companies to try to. She's been shopping this. Why do you think?
I would say because he has assets but nothing liquid. And everything's tied up in real estate. I would think that because it's not something that you could physically touch. They don't want lien on buildings. That would be my theory.
Well, no, because it's the exact opposite of that. I mean, like the fact that you have assets as collateral is you would use those assets as collateral. Well, number one, you don't want to have a bunch of cash laying around unless you're planning on purchasing something, or you think the market's like there's going to be opportunities to buy things at cheap prices. You want to have assets, and you can do things with those assets. You can take loans out against them. You use them as collateral. You can depreciate them. You can, structure them into different vehicles and spin them off into entities and do all kinds of things.
Right.
But why can't Donald Trump? Okay, Donald Trump can get a loan to buy something. Donald Trump can get a loan to build something. Why can't Donald Trump get a loan to to uh to pay this off? Like, okay, he owes the state like $400 million. He could take out a loan on Mar-a-Lago because Mar-a-Lago is worth $1 billion. Why can't he get a loan for $400 million, whatever it is?
I don't know.
Well,
What is your theory?
Well, I'm gonna give both sides, but I know the real answer, and this is where people are going to come at me with saying I don't support Donald Trump. There are people that do business in New York or are leftists or liberals that are like, I am never giving him money. Like I understand that, like we're not going business with him. Just like there are businesses in America that would be like, I am never going to business with Barack Obama. Like, okay, like that's going to happen. That's a reality. But the real reason Donald Trump can't get a bond or a mortgage or any kind of financing to pay this off so then they could charge 4%, to make money off of him is because Donald Trump has a history of not paying his bills. Donald Trump, the problem with Donald Trump, it's a known thing. If I were to say, okay, all right, okay, Donald, if I had the money, it'd be like, okay, John 1911, yeah, motherfucker needs some cash, huh? Look who's come calling. All right. Let's say Mar-a-Lago he owns it free and clear, and it's worth $1 billion or $1.5 billion. It's not worth $18 million. I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'll write this bond. I'll write this, and here's are the terms. These are the rates. I'm going to make this percentage, and we'll have milestones, and we'll have things, and we'll have conditions in this contract. And ultimately, if like you'll back it up with the collateral from Mar-a-Lago. The problem is what eventually would happen with Donald Trump is Donald Trump would stop paying me, and he would drag me through court, and it would be a big mess, and I would not get all the money that I'm owed. I would be lucky to get all the money that I loaned him back. That's the truth. Donald Trump is not somebody, especially when the thing at hand is like this bullshit fucking, you know, this bullshit ruling against him. It's not like, you got to pay me the money for the construction of the building. It's
Right.
this thing he doesn't want to pay for. Every time he has to write me a check, every month he's going to get madder and madder and madder and madder. And eventually he's going to stop paying. And he's going to find some way. And they're screwing me and they're doing this. And I'm going to get left holding the bag. And I'm telling you, there has to be a percentage of people that support Donald Trump politically, but they're like, I ain't writing him. I ain't writing this. I'm not writing this for nothing.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm
I
sorry. I'm sorry, Donald Trump supporters.
I have a theory. You might think I'm crazy. Well, you think I'm crazy anyway. But anyway, my theory is that Monday is the deadline that he has to come up with us. Well, that Letitia James said she's going to start seizing some of his assets. I'm thinking Trump will play the victim card and let them seize the assets to make his case stronger against these people, and to also, on the other hand, say, look at the woe is me thing. I really think he's doing it for his own publicity. Because
I
you
maybe.
might think
I
I'm
mean,
crazy on that, but you never know what's going through his mind.
Donald Trump, Donald Trump subscribes. When I was in high school, I knew a guy And like I was a dork in high school, and girls didn't pay attention to me. Like most dudes, you don't really grow up until you get older. But we all knew guys in school that were like, they were popular and good looking and got all the girls, and like whatever the situation was. And I knew a guy, and he was a very good friend of mine, and he was extremely popular with the girls. And he wasn't an asshole, and he was generally a nice guy. But just one of the one of the the miracles of his life is he bloomed very, very young. And I remember he said something to me, and I don't know if this will make sense to people, but this is kind of how Donald Trump is. This guy, he said, if I'm out in public and I'm in a crowd of like 500 people, and somebody's waving, like there's like a girl, she's waving to say hi or get someone's attention, his opinion is it's always me. I'm always like, hey, how's it going? Good. Yeah. He doesn't. So Donald Trump kind of does the same thing. No matter what happens to Donald Trump, it's the best thing to ever happen. Even though and Donald Trump's always a victim, but it's never woe is him. It's like, they're coming after me and I'm going to fight them, because if they don't come after me, they're going to come after you. Donald Trump can certainly make that argument. Now, you and I had shared a news report that there was rumblings that Donald Trump was going to make an Eighth Amendment argument to
Right.
probably to the Supreme Court. And Eighth
He
Amendment
might
is,
have really good grounds.
well, can you tell us what the Eighth Amendment is?
Citizens shall not be subjected to cruel and unusual punishment, or I can't think of the word before, fines. In other words, you can't
The
be
Eighth Amendment. The British used to do this kind of stuff because we had all this, dealing with the monarchies. They would do things like, oh yeah, you're totally fine. It's just we're not gonna rule that you're out of business, or we're not gonna destroy you. Just you happen to have a fine that's so great you can never pay it,
right.
or whatever, you never pay it. The Eighth Amendment is excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Now, the argument that Trump is going to make, and he probably has really good standing here, is he will be able to go to in federal court, and it'll start off in a lower court and work its way up. It'll be, okay, this is where we're at. The argument won't be whether Trump is guilty. Okay, this is, see, people are like, but he's not even guilty. I'm like, I got news for you. This is an Eighth Amendment. This is an Eighth Amendment argument. This is the assumption of guilt. Now this is about the punishment. If you're guilty, quote, excessive bail shall not be required. Excessive bail is also excessive financial restrictions placed upon you by the federal government or the government at all, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Typically, people, when they think about the Eighth Amendment and cruel and unusual punishment, they're thinking about death row. Donald Trump is going to be able to make an argument, and he's going to basically say the following: ladies and gentlemen of the court, you know, this is whatever you want to classify his problem is with this financial problem or this issue or this whatever. Find me another situation where a person has been found guilty, and there is anywhere where they're getting this crazy $500 million judgment that has to be paid in 5 minutes, and not going through the appeals process, and not going allowing due process to play out for years and years in court. We see this all the time. Businesses, they sue each other over patent violations, and they get judgment against each other. The federal government gets judgments, and then it goes to appeals, and it goes to appeals, and it goes to appeals. But for some reason, Letitia James has decided, no, 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 no. Within 90 days, we're taking all of this shit, and she not only is it she's circumventing the, like, what's the point? The argument would be, what would be the point, Letitia James, of doing this? It's not like Donald Trump can take a building in New York and run off to Brazil with it.
Right.
We can put restrictions like maybe he can't sell his interest in it. Maybe there'd be restrictions like he can't take a mortgage out of it and move all of his value out of it and move it offshore or something. There's things we can do here, but this is unusual. And then it's like, wait a minute. Then also the fine itself. Why is this? Give me another thing where this fine is so great. And then it's like, well, then the argument's going to be this is the first time in the history of New York that this type of prosecution has actually taken place. Well, is that because it's never happened before, or is it because this is unusual and cruel? Are you there? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
My
So, you know,
my headset slipped.
okay. So, is this so even as the prosecution itself and the way it was conducted, is this uncruel and unusual or excessive under the Eighth Amendment? I think there's going to be an argument to be made that
Well,
this
it is.
could probably
Everyone's
it
been
could be
paid
reduced.
back. Everything they charged him with has been paid back, and the banks that did loan him all these money have profited millions. Where is the injured party in this? I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. You could there is a consumer protection kind of, whatever argument there. So, but yeah,
Well, he better
I
get
think
us. He better get standing in front of the Supreme Court by Monday.
no, he would be silly. The Supreme Court would, even if he were to petition a Supreme Court, the Supreme Court's not going to, the Supreme Court would not hear this case. The Supreme Court would say, appeal this to the next level, the appellate court in your jurisdiction, and then basically go to the appeals judge, go to the three-judge panel, go to the en banc,
Right.
group, and then you can appeal. Unless there's some reason, like if she tries to seize or take property right now, there he will suddenly have standing. You're going to hear some heavy equipment rolling by me here soon.
Well, go ahead.
There could be an understanding. He has standing with the court may want to step in. The Supreme Court may be like, no, 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 no. We're going to stop Letitia James. We're going to unwind this, even if she seizes it. They're going to be like, nope, we're going to unseize this one, and we're going to let him go through the appeals process to determine certain factors. If she actually moves to take things, he will have standing that the Supreme Court may step in. But
Good
even
point.
now, it's all about standing at this point.
Right.
It's not a theoretical. It's about somebody has to actually be in danger of suffering harm under these clauses in the Constitution. So yeah,
Well, I think he'll have good
I'm a Donald
standing.
Trump supporter.
So am I. You know that.
Yeah,
It's going to be interesting. Well, we better hit the police blotter because remember what we discussed before we started.
yeah. I know you got to get to
Well, some of us have jobs.
yeah. Well, you know what? I don't have an actual because we did this on the fly. I only have one.
Well, you know
This will
what?
be the
It's going to have to suffice.
this one will suffice. Here is the headline. Crocodile handler nearly loses his genitals to furious 15-foot beast. A shocked crocodile hunter came within an inch. the the verbiage of this headline. Okay, a crocodile hunter handler came. A shocked crocodile handler came within an inch of losing his manhood when a 15-foot beast bit him between his legs after being poked with a stick in his enclosure. The experienced reptile expert was giving a display to dozens of visitors at Crocodile Creek theme park just north of Durban, South Africa, when he was viciously attacked. Let's see here. The Nile crocodile, the largest living reptile with the most powerful bite force in the world. I don't know if I buy that. Suddenly whipped its head around and clamped its jaws on him. The shocked handler shrieked as he saw the predator latch on him just below his waist and pull him to the ground as a second, slightly smaller crocodile ran to join the attack. Oh my God, they gagged. Yeah, horrified tourists screamed for help as the giant croc kept the handler pinned down, but he managed to stand and beat the beast with 64 teeth released, allowing him only to run to safety. So yeah,
Oh,
this is what happens when you sign up for the the discount crocodile petting tour. You might get a Faces of Death episode.
well,
So
it's a good thing that his one armed helper named Stumpy was close.
it's just like, this is probably the one incident that I can say, having a smaller penis is probably better than having a longer one.
Yeah, I'm glad he wasn't aroused.
This wraps up episode 334 of the John 1911 podcast. If you want to see any more stories or pictures and links to everything we discussed, please go to the website at john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.
Bye bye.